time, it went introverted itself totally, you know. And I don't know how much damage it has done or how much positivity it has created, because today I know of Iran that women are doing free, women are conductors in buses, they're tourist guides, they're everything. But the West tells us that because of the hijab there must be some curtailment of freedom. I do not think so, but
I don't know the hijab in itself is curtailment of freedom. From my experience with the hijab, it can be very beautifully worn, it can be a very fantastic fashion statement. If you so choose it to be. So this is a very relative, again, okay, we talked about the hijab varying from culture to culture and era to era, but it is also a question of mindsets and people's focus or their perception. I mean, if you wear a hijab in the Western world, it is somehow believed that you are oppressed or somehow not a full individual, or not somehow fully expressing yourself.
But the history of hijab is very strange. You know, nuns wear it.
Yes, nobody says that they're not expressing.
And they cover them completely, almost like the Muslim hijab. And they do it.
Yes.
Okay. Now, even if you go to Tharparkar in Pakistan or India in the rural areas, even the Hindu woman would, even if a car crosses her, she would do a ghungat.
Yes.
You see, she would do that.
She would swing her fabric round.
Yeah, fabric round, and that's her modesty. So I think this protection of modesty, you may call it hijab in the Muslim world or elsewhere, has been a part of all cultures. Women because of their childbearing physiology, etc., etc., needed protection even during the wars, you know. And women with children need protection. And that somewhere around, you know, there is a concept of modesty which is there in all cultures, really. You see, the liberation of women does not mean that this modesty has to go.
The modesty hasn't. I mean, you're talking about nuns and stuff, but even if you look at the Western world today, people tend to consider MTV as the culture that exists in the West. You know, they brand MTV as that is the Western culture. That's not the case. I often have to explain to people, they have a play hard ethic, but they also have a very work hard ethic.
That's true.
Which gets lost.
That's true.
It gets lost in this whole debate.
And sometimes progress is viewed as, if you go to Kabul and they say now women are going around without hijab, and that's progress.
whether they have electricity, whether they eat deep fry meals a day, whether the children are going to school,
is progress.
So you know, that in itself is a whole. Well, that's a separate discussion for another day. Sharia law and its possible implementation in Pakistan. How are your feelings on it?
You see, now first is Sharia. Sharia is the limitations on the punishments of crimes in the Quran. You see, maximum punishments on certain crimes. That's the Sharia. What is given in the Quran is the Sharia. Now, the Sharia has been interpreted by the Prophet ﷺ during his life, by the Sahaba Ikram during their lives, and then interpreted by the Muslim jurists like Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Malik, Imam Hanbal, and Imam Jafar Sadiq. You know, 5 Muslim jurists who have interpreted them. Regarding, for example, hijab, what is the Muslim concept? You know, and I am very impressed by a Muslim scholar by the name of Javed Ghamdi Sahab. He comes on television on so many shows, and his expression is that there is a modesty factor only. Like I said, the Prophet ﷺ never issued any punishment to a woman who was not wearing hijab. But the Quran says that there has to be some modesty, and that modesty is described as covering of the head and some chadar going over the body, just like that. And that too is different between what modesty a woman may observe in public and what modesty she observes in areas where she is comfortable, private domain. Now, Islam has been and should have been dynamic and is dynamic, where even in Sharia, the Caliph Umar, Hazrat Umar, he stopped cutting off hands when as a punishment, when he saw that there was poverty and there was famine in society, and he said that we can't do that. So that means the Sharia gave maximum punishments, but you could give less. Like in a court of law in Pakistan, if on murder either there is hanging or 14 years RI, but you can't give 15 years RI. You can't give 16 years RI. You have to give, the judge can give 14, 10, 9, 8, 1 or whatever, let the person go free. So the Sharia in the Quran gives a maximum punishment. It's a guidance for people, but it is open to ijtihad. Now, what is ijtihad? Ijtihad is the assembly of people. It's not religious scholarship. You see, it's not only religious scholarship. Ijtihad is ijtihad is understanding society and making adjustments to be fluid with society.
Is it not also the struggle for knowledge?
Ijtihad, yes.
And the purpose of self-growth?
Yes, it is.
Which will now come in the next section.
Yeah. Okay, but at the same time, remember, a person going on the space shuttle, where there is no timing of Zuhr and Fajr, etc., gets ijtihadi information how to pray, how many times to pray. You see, that's ijtihad. If you go to a Sikhi, for example, the time is what do you do? Where's sunrise?
How do you fast?
How do you fast? So that's ijtihad.
Okay, all right. Let's talk more about this, but let's also talk about censorship after this, ladies and gentlemen. See you back after the break.